And of course, the lumber went off the truck and it went to a vehicle and killed a guy in the same spot. Like, that's a wicked corner.
Yeah.
This is a nice building, you guys. How long has this been here?
We were
Just talking about that, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
2000, 2001, maybe 99, something like that.
2002.
Well, good for it, seems more than that.
Okay, 7 o'clock, we're gonna start the November 20th Town Council meeting with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. And we'll take contrary to minutes. Last meeting.
These are the minutes of 6th. So Mayor M. Shipley held the regular meeting of the Ione Town Council to order at 7 o'clock p.m. With the following council members present: Weiss, Sturba, S. Shipley, Vogel, McNeil, and Buchanan. Started with pledge of allegiance. Minutes from the October 16th, 2024 regular meeting were read and approved as read. Motion was made by McNeil, seconded by S. Shipley to approve payroll check in the amount of $14,058.63. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by McNeil, seconded by Vogel to approve accounts payable check in the amount of $32,479.32. Motion passed unanimously. Sheriff Blakesley reviewed crime calls for Ione, and Blake McCannerin with POC Fire reviewed fire and EMS calls for Ione. Public comment period regarding the 2025 property tax levy was opened at 7:11 p.m. McCannerin addressed to express his opinion that Ione should take the 1% increase in property tax given the current rates of inflation and overall cost increases. M. Evans addressed council to express that he agrees that Ione should take the property tax increase. D. Nutt addressed the council to express his opinion that the council should have a plan for how to utilize funds generated from the property tax increase. He feels that the council has a plan and has faith in the town's best interest. And S. Scoflair addressed via Zoom to express her support for increasing the tax levy. Her comment was received after the council had approved the tax increase due to the clerk missing her intent to speak via Zoom. Public comment period closed at 7:15 p.m. A motion was made by McNeil, seconded by S. Shipley to approve the 1% increase in the property tax levy. The motion was discussed by council and a vote was held. The motion passed unanimously. M. Shipley reviewed resolution 2024-3, declaring an emergency due to the breakage of one of the town's sewer mains. Cannon reviewed the cost incurred as a result of the sewer main break, approximately $38,000 to repair the broken pipe. Declaring an emergency may open additional funding to reimburse the town for this expense. M. Shipley reviewed the sewer line break and what was done to fix the problem. A motion was made by Vogel, seconded by S. Shipley to pass resolution 2024-3. The resolution was discussed by council and a vote was held. Motion passed unanimously. Ordinance 650, which adjusts nuisance ordinance 615 and junk vehicle ordinance 385 was discussed. Cannon provided feedback received from the town's attorney regarding the draft ordinance. The attorney had no legal concerns with the ordinance. The council and audience discussed and the proposed ordinance, and there was consensus that the ordinance should be passed. A motion was made by S. Shipley, seconded by McNeil to pass ordinance 650. Motion passed unanimously. Council reports. Position 1, White, nothing to report. Position 2, Sturba, asked about budgeting and if commissioners can own portions of the budget associated with those areas. No definitive answers, but in general, commissioners should play a large role in budgeting for the respective areas. Position 3, Vogel, the next EDAC meeting is next week. We'll follow up with M. Evans, who expressed interest in attending these meetings on behalf. Position 4, S. Shipley, suggested that we add mayor report out to the council report section of the meeting. There is general consensus that this be done. Canon will add a section for mayor reports moving forward. Position 5, McNeil, shared that he's working to finalize the logo content. A general public comment period opened at 8 p.m. D. Nutt addressed council to advise that he received notification from the EPA regarding tightening of the rules around lead and water systems. Canon advised that this was the same information the town received regarding the updated lead and copper rule from the EPA. The rule change is what prompted the town to conduct the lead service line. And B. McCannerin advised that POC Fire would be providing flu vaccines on Friday, November 8th at Tiger Fire Station and in Medellin Falls on Thursday. Public comment period closed at 8:03 p.m. Meeting adjourned at 8:04 p.m.
Any corrections? Okay, Canon is ready. May I have a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $102,994.85?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, second.
Missed, you made the motion. Sharon.
Richard.
Richard,
Richard first, Sharon second.
Aubrey,
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Council meetings are governed by loose version of Robert's Rules of Order. Mainly just on that forward. So our guests are John Janney and Joe Hathaway with PUD. So the floor is yours, gentlemen.
We'll try not to take up too much of your time. I know you guys got some business to get to. We gave a presentation to the high school so far, and those were about an hour long, so I'm not going to take up that much of your time. I do have some slides I'd like to walk through, if it's okay.
Just a second, I can't get to
Okay.
my screen share is up there, so now I can't get to the actual slide deck where I need to.
Technical challenges.
Your clicker should work.
Okay. So, yeah, thanks for having us. John Janney, I'm the general manager. I've been here about 10 months now. Worked at other PUDs and other utilities over the course of my career, and very happy to be here. And Joe Hathaway joined us just a few months ago as our public information officer, and he's got experience with a cooperative electric utility in Oregon, and so very happy to have him. Today, I just want to go over a couple things. We're working on a lot of stuff, and we're just trying to help our customers understand what we're working on and have an opportunity to hear what we're thinking and provide some feedback on them. So go through a brief history, kind of our current status, a little bit about the road ahead, what we're kind of seeing over the horizon, and then our electric rate study and 10-year forecast that we're working on to try to evaluate some potential rate adjustments that we might need to make through the high inflationary period we've been through and those kind of things. And then a little bit about what the next steps are. A lot on this slide, but since I came to Washington and went to work for the first PUD over in Chelan County, I've kind of fallen in love with the PUD model. They're very unique. You guys probably know that, but you don't have organizations like this all around the country. You know, these things were stood up, originally back in the 30s, I think, and there's 28 of them now, I think, throughout the state. And this is just a little bit of the history here, and I'm not going to go through it all because there's just too much there, but I just want to highlight a couple things. The town I grew up in Southwest Montana, very similar to like Newport and very similar to Ponderay County. Our county was, like Newport was the county seat, Deer Lodge was the county seat in my county. I think probably very equivalent 30, 40, 50 years ago. A lot of, resource industries. We had a tech chemical mine. We had, a lot of timber, lumber, lots of different stuff around, and that's all kind of gone by the wayside. And every time I go home, it seems like there's another business boarded up on Main Street, and it just kind of seems to just be gradually going down. My high school had about 500 kids when I went there, and it's down to about 200 now. And so I think about that a lot, and then I'm here and I talk to a lot of our customers and our residents and kind of understand some of the challenges that Ponderay County's been through. It's not unique. A lot of rural counties throughout the country are going through these kind of things, but in some ways, I think Ponderay County is probably holding its own a little bit better than a lot of them. And I think one of the reasons is the fact that you all have a PUD here. And quick thought experiment. So just pretend for a minute that this PUD wasn't here. I did this with my employees, and it was an interesting exercise. So if the PUD wasn't here, our 82-ish employees wouldn't be working here, living here, supporting the community. Their kids wouldn't be in our schools. They wouldn't be volunteering as coaches and doing all the things that parents do with their kids in a small community. They wouldn't be on the fire districts, volunteer firemen and that kind of stuff. They wouldn't be paying the taxes that we pay to support the community. All the local business support the PD. We try to our electric rates would be a lot higher. Wouldn't have fiber optics, or I'd venture to say the county would be in a lot worse shape if not for this PUD that predecessors long ago had the vision to stand this thing up and keep it going. You guys probably know this, but it's an amazing organization, and I want people to understand the value of what they have here, and understand a little bit more about what we do. You all know there's some outside pressures that are trying to chip away at what we have here, our quality of life. Probably heard some news about threats of taking out some of the dams on the Snake River. That's part of the whole Columbia, the whole river system and the hydropower system here. If they get those, they won't stop. They'll keep coming until they take them all out. And that would be devastating for us. And we want people to understand and appreciate and value what we have so that we can work with you all to help defend what we have and push back when those threats are trying to be imposed on us here. And I could go on and on about that because I get pretty passionate about it, but I'll stop there on that piece. So quick current status. Probably can't see this really good, but current customer counts. We got about close to 10,000 electric customers spread out between residential, commercial, small industrial. We've got the 9 water systems, and then we've got the community network fiber system, which has about close to 3,000 customers now. We're exploring an opportunity to maybe bring fiber up part of the county, looking at some grants, and cautiously optimistic we'll be able to make it. A lot of work needs to be done on that. Financially, we're stable. We're rated by 2 of the rating agencies, Moody's and Fitch. In the middle of the pack. PEDs, we're in a pretty good spot, and I'd say we're in pretty decent shape. But some things on the front we need to make sure we're preparing for. Address those things. Otherwise, we start to and two of the other senior leaders left. And it took almost a year to fill my position before I came. And so there was a period of time where the people just here and now and trying to make sure they could just take care of what they, they had some budget cuts when the mill closed, and then they had a hard time with equipment when COVID hit and supply chains dried up, and so they weren't able to complete a lot of the work that was scheduled to be completed to update, maintain, and keep our system reliable over the past 4+ years. And so we're kind of behind on some of that stuff, and we need to start catching up. Otherwise, we're going to start seeing more and more stuff break and more outages. You probably heard of the Meadowing Falls water main break here a while back, and that's a prime example of aging infrastructure. A lot of our stuff is old, and one of those lines was 50 years old, the other one was 70 years old, and that's what happens. Stuff starts breaking, and as you know, it costs a lot more to replace stuff in an emergency situation when it breaks than if you've got a long-term plan to systematically replace the aging stuff before it breaks. So we're working on all that. Our team's been working on this probably for the past 6 or 8 months. Very proud of what we have as a team. You guys should be proud of them too. So we're initially kind of figuring out where we're at, doing a baseline as we start to look ahead 10 years. So this is the 10-year forecast study that I mentioned on this. Is understanding the impact of the inflation and supply chain issues that we've experienced, and we're not out of the woods yet, especially on some of the supply chain stuff. A couple years ago, we were a normal transformer for about $1,400, and so it's gone up 3 times. And before it would take about 20 weeks from the time we place an order until the time we receive it. Now it's ranging from 1 to 2 years. So we're still dealing with some of that stuff. We really haven't quite recovered, and prices haven't fallen. Thankfully, inflation's starting to taper off, but that doesn't mean prices are dropping. It just means the rate of increase is slowing. So, we still have to digest the higher costs as we purchase new equipment and start to catch up on some of our deferred maintenance and things on the system. That aging infrastructure I mentioned already. We've also got an aging workforce. Got a lot of guys that are getting close to retiring. They're 55 plus with 25 years of experience, or they're over 60. Guys like me, we won't be able to work forever, even if we wanted to. And so part of what we're doing is a plan to try to anticipate that. And if we have to bring somebody in to get them trained and ready so that when that person walks out the door, all their knowledge doesn't go with them. And that's going to sometimes mean hiring a little bit in advance of need so we can do that training and stuff. And so there's a cost associated with that, but it's a better way to do it because it keeps us more stable, and when we won't, wake up one morning and go, oh shoot, where's Joe? Who knows how to do that type of thing. So there's cross training and a lot of stuff we have to do there. And then we've got just tons of new regulations and regulatory stuff, and I'll talk about that just a little bit in a minute. And then wildfire mitigation, that's been a huge thing in the utility industry. Most utilities are viewing that as their largest risk right now, and so they're putting a lot of effort and resources into that. For the first time this year, we were required to develop a wildfire mitigation plan, and we did that. I think we did a really good job. We worked on it for several months, and we submitted it to the Department of Natural Resources as we were required to do by law. But there's some costs associated with that too. We need to hire a couple more guys on our tree trimming crews to make sure we can keep our right of ways clear. And then we need to invest in some additional devices to put on our system so we have a little bit more control over the system that's out there. So if there's fire danger, we have a little more insight into what's going on. And then increasing customer usage. we monitor how many new customers we get every year and how much additional electricity our customers are consuming. And at some point, you know, the amount you're consuming grows so that it outstrips what you have available for supply. So you got to figure out where you're going to get that additional power. And so we're going through that process right now to make sure we have enough. We sold our Box Canyon production output to Clark PUD. So that kind of stabilized our revenue stream for the period of that contract. But if we have a lot of growth in our local area with new customers hooking up and more consumption, we might end up being a little bit short between now and the time that contract expires. We get our power now from Seattle City Light Boundary Dam. We've got an allocation there that's sufficient to cover our needs for now, but we're thinking that maybe by the mid-2030s, we'll start to maybe eat through that and then have to go to market or something to purchase power. And there's a little bit of a cost associated with that too. So we're just trying to pull all these things together and make sure we can provide a good clear forecast and outlook on how things are looking in the years ahead.
Excuse me, I got a question about that then.
Sure.
So how much of our power is being used here right now? Produced here by Box Canyon Dam? None.
None.
Where do we get our power from?
The power's coming from Boundary Dam. That's our cheapest power right now. It's probably our most valuable source of energy that we get from them. So, you know, when this is my super sophisticated model, I use this just to kind of think about how the PUD, how utility works. So, you know, we've got expenses, we've got to pay employee salaries, we've got to buy equipment, we've got, you know, pay insurance and all those kind of things. And so money's coming out the spigot on the bottom, you know, and our folks are really good at being prudent and trying to make sure we spend what we need to spend, and you do the best you can to control on the expense side. And we have revenues or income coming in that's pouring into that. You know, some of that comes from the surplus power that we still have and we sell on the open market. Some of it's interest income on our cash reserves, and other miscellaneous sources, but a good chunk of it comes from our customers, you know, the bills that you guys pay. And so as those are coming in and the money's going out, we're trying to control how much is going out. If it's going out faster than it's coming in, the level of the water in the tank there is going to start to drop. That kind of represents what we have as our cash reserves, that we try to hold a certain amount of cash to make sure we can ride out, you know, emergencies or, you know, unexpected emergencies, expenses, drops in revenue, stuff like that. And so the model has to kind of figure out a way to balance all that. And if there's nothing we can do on the expense side to control things, then we got to look at how we're going to make up the difference on the revenue side to keep that, you know, level of it at a comfortable level. And then that's when we start looking at potential rate increases to raise that up. Kind of a simple, silly way of looking at it, but it's helpful to think about it that way sometimes. So the initial model study results, we presented this back in October, and we're still working on some of those bigger picture items that I looked at on the previous slide that will be ultimately rolled all into the final model before we present that to the board, probably sometime in January. So when we looked at our entire 10-year forecast and what if we didn't do anything with rates, we were looking at a cash deficiency. And so the model would then solve for how much of a rate adjustment would we need in order to solve that cash deficiency. along with some additional borrow, going to the bond market and raising some additional money from the bond market to, do some of our larger capital projects, like we're planning a new substation at Bear Mountain, and, that's a pretty costly endeavor, so. The results of that were kind of preliminarily, before all is said and done, about a 4.25% rate adjustment. For several years, and then, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't say that was gonna be the final number, because we're still working on it, and we estimated somewhere between a 3% and a 7% rate increase. And so, like I said, we're planning to present this, have the final model done sometime in January. We will present it to our board then, allow some more time for public comment, questions and feedback, and then probably present it, some recommendations for what we need to do with rates, late January, early February. And, if the board approves that, those new rates would be effective on it. So this was kind of maybe hard to see from where you're at, but, I'm, as much as I hate to raise rates, none of my staff wants to do it either. You know, they pay the same bills that everybody else does, and they have family and friends here, and the last thing they want to do is do that to their neighbors. But I don't know if you can see here, but right now, among all these utilities, that's not showing up on the screen.
You're
Let me
above
just
it.
step up here.
You're above it.
So right now we've got, utilities that are nearby and kind of similar to us. We've got Clickitat PUD, Avista, Northern Lights over here in Sandpoint, Ferry PUD, Franklin PUD, Inland Power, Okanagan PUD, and then Ponderay PUD. So right now we're lower than all of them down here at the bottom. If we were to do the 4.25, that would put us up here, just slightly above Okanagan. But the only utility we knew at the time that had publicly announced that they were going to raise rates for 2025 was Franklin, and there's 2 lines in here for them. One here where their current rates are, and then one here where their new 2025 rates would be. But I just talked to, we have a Washington PUD Association. We have a meeting that meets once a quarter, and I attended that meeting last month, and we had a roundtable, and of all the PUDs there, and I think there was 20 some of the 28, every single one of them is contemplating a rate increase for next year or for multiple years, because of all the cost pressures and everything that's going on. And so what I expect to see is, these bars will shift out even further once those other rate increases are known. And we're still gonna be, you know, in a reasonably, relatively better place than the rest of the utilities. And I'm cautiously optimistic we'll be able to stay there. I mean, we have good assets. We, you know, think we got a good management team, and our folks are really trying to do the right thing to keep costs down. But, you know, our PUD hasn't done any rate increases for 3 years, which is pretty incredible, because when I talk to all the other PUDs, they've been raising rates every year during this high inflationary period just to try to keep up with us. And we haven't done that. And so, like I was explaining, you know, we're behind, and I need to catch up on some of the things that we fell behind on during the supply chain crisis and stuff, and we're gonna be paying more for the stuff that we have to buy in order to do that. And we haven't raised rates in 3 years, and so, I don't like doing it, and nobody likes to do it. But it could be worse. I'd much rather be us than I would some of these other utilities. You know, we pretty much control our own. We got our own sources of generation, either box that we'll eventually get back, or the power that we get from Seattle City Light. A lot of these other utilities are relying on Bonneville Power Administration for their power, and their rates are going up like crazy, and so that's just gonna be a pass through for them. So hopefully some of that makes a little bit of sense, and then I'll just go through next steps, real quick. We kind of laid out a tentative, next step for the board, and this includes the different elements we're still working on in that 10-year forecast, 2025 budget, and, our water and electric rates. So this coming, December 3rd meeting in December, we're gonna present the final 2025 budget for approval. We had the budget hearing, this last board meeting. And then we'll have a water rates hearing for, the 9 water systems at that meeting. And then we're gonna present what we call our integrated resource plan. And, this is basically, we're gonna be looking at our forecast over the, the next 10+ years through the, end of the Box Canyon sale to Clark, looking at different, load growth scenarios. In other words, different rates of growth for the amount of power that's consumed here locally by our general service customers, to try to, figure out, sensitivity to that. We're gonna look at some of the compliance obligations we have with, some of the new Washington laws. Got an EV mandate where, all new vehicles in Washington have to be either electric or plug-in hybrid by 2035, and there's gonna have to be infrastructure installed to do the charging and all that kind of stuff, and that's gonna put some pressure on our electric system and our rates and kind of stuff like that. And, so that'll be on the 3rd, and then on the 17th, we're gonna, there'll be water rates, asking for approval for those, some financial policies that we're trying to get our board to adopt to kind of give us some guidelines on how we operate financially to make sure we stay in the fairway and, stay financially sound. We're gonna be looking at some low income programs, try to get the board to give us their philosophy on what they want to see us do, so that we can provide appropriate low income assistance to our folks who are having a hard time paying their electric bills, especially if we're gonna be raising rates. And then, come in January, we were hoping this climate commitment act would get repealed, but it didn't. So we're gonna do a presentation on that and what the impact of that act is on us, and our finances and our customers. We'll provide the updated 10-year forecast and rate study here on the 21st. Then on the income electric rate adjustments that we would propose based on the finals, and then present the revised electric rates for approval if once in early March. And then, like I said, if that proves that way, then the proposed rates would be effective on April 1st. So that was a lot. Probably went over my time. I'm sorry if I did. Appreciate you guys listening and hearing, and any questions on any of that? I know there was a lot there and I went through it pretty fast.
I got a question.
Sure.
Two. You mentioned that like transformers is taking a year or two to get. Are you have any plans to start stockpiling with you for usage?
We are, and yeah, that's gonna cost us some money to get that done, but we've already placed some orders. And I think we're in pretty good shape right now, as long as the supply chain doesn't get even worse.
My other question is, what, I know that you mentioned helping assistance with people that are low income. Since the majority of people in Pend Oreille County, at least in northern Pend Oreille, are limited income or below poverty level and all that. How much of that is gonna be taken into consideration?
It all has to be. I mean, and that's why we want to carve out and have a specific discussion on those low income assistance programs. We have two programs now, and we just recently lowered the threshold for eligibility for one of them to make more people eligible. But we don't have a super clear philosophy articulated by our board on what they expect. So that's part of that conversation, is kind of going through the programs we do have, probably talking about what other utilities are doing and kind of showing them how other people are approaching it. And then, hopefully getting them to sign off on, yes, this is the path we want you to take, and then we can do anything. Right? I mean,
Well, it's just that everybody in my apartment complex is on social security or social security disability.
Yeah.
We just can't get a raise by asking.
yeah.
That makes
Understood.
sense.
Yep, sure.
And I guess our COLA this year,
2.5%.
yeah, it's gonna be $24.
Yeah.
But then they're gonna raise our Medicare 20. I mean, I can see people freaking out a little bit when they realize their electrical bill is gonna go up. Use the round numbers, $30 to go up, but their own income's only going up 20. They're gonna have to, it's basically a $10 increase over what they had.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm just, like I said, round numbers I could use for math.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope we don't see that big of an increase on the electric rates. I don't, $30 would be a lot, but, any increases, I mean, we're sensitive to that. Like I said, I don't want to do it. It's the worst thing I can do. It's the second worst thing I can do. The worst thing I can do is to pretend like we don't need it. And our stuff starts to fall apart and stuff starts breaking all over the place, and then reliability goes to heck, and then it costs us a lot more to try to bring things back up to where they should be. So we're trying to balance the prudence thing here with, only asking for what we think we really need and no more. But
No, I understand.
enough to make sure that we can still keep reliability and, keep things going the way they should.
I survived the ice storm back in 97 in Spokane, where all the lines were collapsing under the ice, and went 3 weeks without electrical.
Yeah. Ouch.
So I've experienced it. I understand that. That's why a majority of their lines they put underground. I mean, we lost power the other night at 4 in the morning or 2 in the morning. It came back on around 6. But in the winter time, you don't want that to happen because it can get cold real quick. And
The safety issue, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So, it is a balancing act, you guys, and we're, you have a really good team working there. I'm just very fortunate to have some very talented, experienced people, and like the community too, and they don't want to raise what we need to do in order to kind of keep the wheels on and keep moving. And like I said, I think we're in, when I look at what my peer utilities are doing, the other general managers, they're struggling with, their problems are worse.
well,
And I think we should hope we can at least appreciate that, the decisions that were made 50, 60, 70 years ago to start this PUD and invest in the assets that we have and get it and keep it going. We're all benefiting from that. And, I think I view my role as a steward as much as anything. I want to try to take what's been handed down, take good care of it, and hopefully pass it on to the next generation in a better condition than what we took it over in. I think that's the attitude that almost all of our employees have, and our commissioners too.
So a question, the power that's being sold to Clark, is it, the income from that comparable to the cost of the power from city light?
Well, so we're collecting from Clark what it costs us to generate power at Box Canyon. It's about $50 a megawatt hour-ish. It's a pretty high cost, pretty high production cost asset. By contrast, we're paying Seattle about $9. So the dilemma, I think, you know, I wasn't here, but the dilemma I think our board had when the paper mill shut down was suddenly you have all this excess power that, you know, what the heck are you gonna do with it? Like, you can't just shut the dam off, right? So you try to sell it for as much as you can get for it. And there was a period of time there when the market price of power was below the cost of production. So every megawatt they would sell, they were selling at a loss. And that, you couldn't sustain that long, you know, and if prices were to drop even further, I mean, you couldn't raise rates high enough here to make up the difference, right? So I think they were looking at that and thinking, okay, we need to do something to stabilize the revenue. And so they went through a process and they talked to a bunch of different people and they ended up, you know, getting Clark PUD to basically purchase the power for that period of time that assures that we should come close to at least covering our costs and stabilize things. And, you know, and then 16 years from the start of the contract, you know, we'll have an opportunity to get that power back and decide what to do with it then. And we might have a need for it here in the county at that time, or there might be other uses for it. They might be able to get more for it, selling it on the market if they want to sell some of it again like that. But it, you know, the good news is it stabilized things. And we have a very, very low cost resource from Boundary to supply our general service, which is part of the reason why our rates are as low as they are. Very fortunate on that. And, you know, now our job is just to make sure we're just managing things prudently and, taking account of all these pressures that I kind of talked through just a little bit, that those are things we can't control. Just need to make sure we're doing our best to mitigate them, doing our best to manage them and you know, limiting the amount of the impact that those things are gonna have on our business and on our customers, you know. So, it's a great utility. It's an awesome community you guys have here. I feel at home here, very, very similar to where I grew up. I have a soft spot in my heart for small communities. But thanks for taking the time and letting me blab for as long as I did.
So I have a question.
Sure.
If the electricity that is being made by the dams is clean electricity, why do you have to pay the government for it or whatever the act is?
Oh, good question. We may not have to if we have all clean energy. There's a phase in starting in 2030, and then another one in 2045 where it has to be all 100% carbon free. Like I was saying before, I think we're in a fortunate position. We might not get impacted too bad by that portion of the law, portions of the law that are still going to.
What portions?
There's a mandated program for low income assistance that is not a bad thing, but it's like a blunt instrument, you know, using a sledgehammer to drive in attack.
Mhm.
Where it would be much better if it were left up to the local people to figure out what works best for us. And so anytime you have a top-down approach like that, it ends up being less efficient and more costly in the long run. And so there's that. And then that Climate Commitment Act, the one that I mentioned that I thought was going to be repealed, it's costing all of us quite a bit of money already just in higher gasoline taxes and other things. And that's impacting our PUD too through a lot
So
of.
that's what I was talking about, was that act. If
Oh.
it's clean electricity, that electricity is clean.
Yeah,
being
so
produced.
it's goofy, just like the stupid government does they just layer upon layer different regulations, and one of them deals with how clean your electricity is, the other one deals with something similar but different, and so with pancakes, so you gotta deal with this one, but you also got to deal with this one, and
Deal with the trucks, you know. To do your repairs.
yep,
And then you've been going around and replacing all the meters?
Mhm.
Is that, was that planned for, or is that just something that came up?
no, that was planned for, so, they call that automated metering infrastructure, and we're one of the last utilities in the state to do this. We've held off as long as we could. We had meters and they were working just fine. Then those meters kind of started failing, they were getting old, and it was time to replace them anyway, so. Better, have more real-time information, we can do remote connections and remote disconnections if we need to. We have better insight into whose houses are out. Sometimes it's hard for us to see that now with our current systems, and so there's gonna be some benefits for the PUD and how we manage things, but there could also be benefits for you customers if you'd like to go on, like us to do different rates, like maybe a time of use rate where, we provide super cheap power during certain hours of the day or certain days of the week. And you think, yeah, that'd be great for me because I can control when I use my power, and I want to sign up for that rate because I'm going to use most of my power during those hours and those kind of things. So there's potential things we can do there too to help people maybe keep their electricity bills down by providing those different types of rate structures to let people have more control over what they use and when they use it and keep their bill down that way. So there'll be some benefits from it for that too. But the meters had to be replaced anyway, and it was time, and we couldn't have bought the old style meters even if we wanted to. So we're going with the new ones.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, you guys.
You didn't talk much.
Yeah, he did all the work, and then I'm just got to get going, yeah.
You guys, of course, are more than welcome to stay, but I did unplug here, so if you guys want to get back to Newport, you're more than welcome.
If you want somebody to support some of the things you're doing, we'll stay and we'll give you the funds.
Like you said, you're welcome to stay. If you like. Okay, next on our list is Innovate Ione.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, my name's Kim Riley and I'm the spokesperson for Innovate Ione. And I'm delighted to say that we have been granted the 501c3 tax exempt status, so that's good news. Yeah, right. One obstacle. Number two, at the end of the season for the Ione farmers market, everyone was so delighted with the sign up and be vendors again next year, starting approximately in January, or not January, but probably June. Okay. And they're also advertising in Canada. And so we're hoping to get business from that. Calendar next year, Ione Chipper Days, mid-May, and Highway 31 yard sale, in September, the weekend after Labor Day. We're going to try out offering periodic business education and support workshops to help people turn their hobbies and passions into tax-paying businesses. Hopefully, some of them will also be vendors at the Ione Saturday market. So that's it, and I'm really excited to hear about the educational and business support activities that are on board for this coming year. Any questions?
Yeah. Yes, are you Innovate Ione or Ione Creative District? Because there's two names here.
Innovate Ione.
Because the IRS thing is for Ione Creative District. Not Innovate Ione.
And double check. Ione Creative District, AKA Innovate Ione. So the 501(c)(3) is for Ione Creative District. Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a budget. You want to discuss this, John?
Bring something up on the screen again.
Okay.
So you guys all have this in printed out form. I guess I probably didn't need to bring it up, other than I will share this screen with. Oh, what happened to my cursor?
You killed it.
Like, I can see it highlighting stuff, but I can't see where it actually is. All right, so I'll just share this screen so that people online can take advantage of it. So there's nobody from the public here. Go over a couple of highlight items. I think you guys, from the budget workshop and such, are fairly familiar with this. So I think the main one to look at is the budget comparison fund total. So that's the skinny piece of paper. To know about this is rolling this up by fund, so it's totals by fund. It also does not include our carryover, so our fund, in other words, we didn't spend all the money in our bank account last year. We're starting this year with some money. That is not reflected in this, so it gives a truer image of what the revenue is. Otherwise, it gets goofy when you include that, because then it says you got, revenue of 500,000, but really you had 400,000 in the bank and only made 100. So I think it's easier to look at this way and compare our revenue to expenses. So when you've got there, it's going to show, 23 appropriated and actual, 24 appropriated and actual through when I printed this report, which was today. And then 25, what the appropriated, amounts are. So overall, pretty similar, to last year. We're expecting a slight decline in revenue from what we expected, for 2024. A lot of that is driven by, some of the different projects that are coming in, because that always looks a little bit goofy, right? If we get a grant for like the sidewalk project, we get a grant for $104,000, that's 104 grand coming in, and then 104 grand going out, we'll pay the contractors. So that gets rolled up into there, but bottom line, we're expecting, just under $1 million in revenue coming in 2025. Compared, just under $1 in expenses, so we can spend less than we generate revenue in 25. A couple of things that aren't fully, factored into this. is we do have an open request out there for approximately $2.5 million for funding for the sewer project. So that, once that's finalized, we would have to add a line item where we would receive that $2.5 million and then spend that on folks. If we are to take that loan, 2026 would be the first payment. It would be an interest-only payment, and then 2027 is when the payments would start in earnest. So that's why those loan payments aren't reflected in 2025, because we wouldn't start seeing those until 26 and then 27 in earnest. The other thing to note in there is, and we're gonna have at the next council meeting, we'll also have a public hearing so we can get feedback. But in order to afford, the loan for the sewer system project is gonna cost us about $72,000 a year to repay that loan. So what I've built in, you'll notice that the sewer maintenance and operations revenue, last year or this 2024, we were expecting about 177,000. I bumped that up to 237, so that's reflective of a $20 per month rate increase on the sewer system. That rate increase gets us about $70K a year extra, so not quite enough to pay off the loan. But if we take the rate increase starting January of 2025, that gives us kind of 2 years to build a little bit. So we would be able to pay that on, the loan off with that rate increase. The other thing to keep in mind, and possibly a separate, item for conversation, is as the underwriters, so we have $2.5 million loan ask, 50% grant, 50% loan for the sewer. Also 1.1 million we were asking for the Cedar Creek water line relocation off of the bridge. The underwriters are kind of pushing back and saying, I don't know that your rate increases are enough to afford both of those loans. So I know Mike has been in conversation with the county commissioners, and it's looking like we have a strong opportunity to not have to need that pipe off of the bridge, put it under the, stream. We can likely work with the county, and when they redo the bridge, reattach the pipe to the bridge that they're gonna build and attach it in a way that is, copacetic, I guess, with both the county and us. We don't have an exact cost on that, but it would be considerably less than 1.1 million. So my recommendation to the council would be that we, cancel the application for the 1.1 million funding for the pipe moving off of the bridge, because I think we can get that done a whole lot cheaper. And we focus, on our actual, big, capital expenditures on the sewer system. So that's kind of how the budget's built in. I didn't build in any rate increases, anything in water to, try to pay for that loan, because I'm thinking that what makes the most sense, assuming that you guys approve, is that we cancel the request for the water side of that, continue the request for the sewer side. Otherwise, I did build in a pay increase for all of the town workers. So we increased it by the same percentage as what minimum wage went up. So our custodian is the person earning minimum wage, so they'll go to the new 2025 minimum wage. And then everyone else was getting that same percentage increase, which I believe was 2.35%. The one exception to that is Tom. So Tom and Roger both do pretty similar jobs as far as, maintenance. They are certified in the same sort of way, but there was a very large pay differential between the two. So this builds in a jump to get Tom up to about $1.50 an hour less than what Roger's making. As it stands currently, he's like $7 an hour less. So it's a significant, raise for Tom, but I think it keeps in alignment. I mean, they're still paid significantly less than what they could get paid in different municipalities, for the same work. So it seems commiserate with the with what their job does. I'm not sure what the history why Tom was coming in so much lower than what Roger is. Makes sense that Roger's paid more. He's got some supervisory responsibilities and such, but it didn't seem like the difference in their job description was worth, like $70 $1. So that's a change from last year, and that's built into the. Otherwise, I mean, business as usual, we still have $1,000 in the budget in 2025 for a storage expansion for the shop. We didn't get that done, this year. So that's something that, I just carried that money forward. The other thing is we have about 52,000 that we carried forward that we didn't spend in 2024. That will carry forward in 2025. And in 2024, it was earmarked for ADA access doors for the ICC, as well as some modernization efforts for the office. So a website, maybe voice over IP phone system, potentially some new computers if, they're getting to that age. So I carried that over from 2024. We just didn't get those projects done in 2024. So we moved the budget line into 2025. Hopefully we'll pursue those this year. But that's kind of a quick top line. You guys also have the thicker packet, which is the same information, but it breaks it down to each line item, within the budget. So happy to, answer questions. Ideally, we would have some public comment. Let me check and see. Don't see that I've got anyone online asking for comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions from the council. The plan for the budget is, this is the public hearing for the budget. At the next council meeting, we would seek to approve the budget as well as have a public hearing for that sewer rate increase. So if things come up between, we've got basically from now till the next council meeting to make adjustments to this before you're asked to vote to approve a budget. So, you take it home tonight, whatever, find something, come into office, shoot me an email, give me a phone call. We can, make tweaks if you see, area. But otherwise, yeah, if you've got any questions, happy to.
When was the last time hangar rates at the airport were looked at?
It's been a considerable period of time. It's something that we could certainly look at. I believe most of those folks are on 5-year contracts. So I'd have to go look and see when the contracts are. Obviously, we can't raise them, mid-contract, but something we should certainly consider. We've also had some asks. I've had 3 or 4 people contact the town this year asking for hangar space or if they could build a hangar. So, the airport, like I sharing, it might be a good project for 2025 to put a plan together. If we maybe have demand for more hangar spaces out there, especially people that are willing to build the hangars themselves. What infrastructure would we need to support as far as like taxi lanes and such, how we want to plan that out. So there's probably some opportunity for some planning in the airport. I don't know that we would realize revenue from it in 2025, but if we do some good planning this upcoming year, then maybe we can get the gears rolling to generate better revenue on the airport, in 26, 27.
And how long has Tom been an employee, a full-time employee?
He's been here for 17 years. I can't tell you off the top of my head when he changed from part-time to full-time. I could look that up.
Tom and Roger were hired on the same day.
Were they?
And Roger, the supervisor, and Tom is the assistant.
Correct.
And what is the need for the storage at the township? Or what-
So, well, there's a combination of things. Some of it is the town Christmas decorations. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but a bunch of those were leaning, just on the side of the shop outside. They spent last winter, leaning outside. So, that's a big piece of it. We might be able to do some work because that's one of those partnership things between, the item beautification, committee and the town. They hang all the stuff up, we tend to store it. So if if we were to make an agreement with Trailblazers and IBC to, put, Connex in the park, that might alleviate the need, at least for the decorations. We were originally, given some quotes for constructing like a lean-to style, extension onto the building there. And so that's also came up with, it's probably a cheaper, better alternative if we storage like Connex for, $3 to $5 grand and park it, at our shop over there. So,
But that shop is huge. I mean, they could build a second level in that shop,
Sure.
put storage in there or some other thing like that. It's a huge shop.
yeah, so we can certainly, look at that. Like I said, I carried that 3,000 over from the prior year. And where that money originally came from too was from the sale of the buildings, that we sold. So that's when we initially allocated that. But yeah, we could probably in all reality back that down, significantly to either a Connex or maybe a loft or, some other.
Put it
you know,
towards the sewer lines that need to be replaced.
Yeah, it would help with that. The other big expense item that is, in the budget that, and it's completely up to you guys when you want to make a decision, but, we just got insurance information in, so, the insurance that we pay at the fire station for the next 12 months is about $16,500. We also have $3,000 in the budget for maintenance for that building. So as long as we continue to own that, we're looking at, 19, almost $20,000 this year, in expenses for that and going up, every year there. So that's, another, avenue, once we make, decisions or whatnot regarding transfer of that building. But at this point in time, that's, I know we got the appraisal done. I can't remember the exact dollar figure, but it was what, 250 or 300,000 was the value of the building. So, we're maintaining a asset that's valued at $300,000 and it's costing us $20,000 a year to maintain, that asset. So 12 years and we're, negative, right? If the building doesn't continue to, significantly appreciate in value. So that's another, fairly large budget item that, I would recommend some sense of urgency to, make some decisions on how we're gonna, deal with that. Because, the town gets, I guess, improved response times for fire service. It's nice having the fire department to, standpoint. It's just a money thing.
So on that topic, I think that before too long, we're gonna have to focus on that issue and come to some agreement here, because I know there's a number of different opinions on it. But we need numbers, we need facts, and we need to consensus. We have until 28, the contract is up with them. But we need to know well before that what we're gonna do. What kind of plans could we have for that if they vacated, because they could. So if we had an hour, so to just focus on that topic, I think it would be a lot better, because every once in a while it comes up, but we have a lot of other stuff to do. So we can't really focus on it.
We also gotta remember, it's not a profit system, it is law enforcement, fire department, all those could be money pits.
Right.
They're not gonna ever try to make you money.
So are there any more questions on this, the budget for now? Like he said, we should take it home and chew on it and see if we find things that we have questions about.
And I've got copies available in the office. I can pull it up like electronically and slice and dice it in different ways if you want to see it. Happy to work with anybody on that.
Thanks, Don. Okay, so we don't have any public to comment regarding the budget. As far as I know,
Yeah, there's no one online about the comment.
okay, The next new business item is surplus property. What's that?
And this is one, so I added this on to the deal as we're. So I don't know that everybody's aware, but what used to be the mayor's office and kind of the coat closet sort of room. Mike hates that because there's no windows. I understand it's not a great office, so. We're moving the mayor's office into where we used to have the council meeting. And we're also moving our storage, file systems and stuff into there. So that'll give us 2 rooms within this building that we could rent out. One of them in what office, that's where the drive is gonna be, that we authorized, free services. So we'll be in there 1 day a week, but we'll have, that our other office space. Any case, as we're going through our stuff and moving stuff that's been in storage, there's a couple of items that we've had sitting around here, stored for a few years that I can't see any beneficial purpose for. So, asking for, approval to declare those as surplus. So the items in question, we've got an automatic cash drawer, like something you would see at a grocery store or whatever. It's supposed to plug into a cash register system and the drawer pops open, automatically when you hit the till. It doesn't work with our water and sewer system, and it doesn't work in our drawer setup in the office. So we don't really have any use for it. It's probably worth 10 or 20 bucks, something like that to, some, small business that might be interested in it. But don't see any value for us, keeping it. The other thing that we've had sitting around for a long time is we've got a Bose ChimeMate 15 home entertainment sound system. So it's like the subwoofer and surround sound speaker system. I think it was a holdover from when we had the volunteer fire department, and it's something that was gonna go in like their living quarters or something. But any case, I can't see that we have a use for it. We're not setting up home entertainment systems here. It's
Are you
not.
having parties in here on the weekends?
Yeah, exactly. It's not the type of system that, because I investigated, could we use it for like audio visual setup in this room? And it's not really set up that way, right? It's meant to hook into your TV and for, home entertainment system. So it's probably worth 100, 200 bucks, something like that, but it's just a big box. It's never been opened. It's brand new in the box that we've been, carting around from the old building to here. And then the last, item is we've got an old gateway computer monitor and keyboard, with the associated cables. It was something that originally went to the mayor computer, but we've got an updated monitor for that. All of the computers that we have in the office are the one and done, it's not a computer with a monitor, it's the computer and monitor all together. So we really don't have use for it. Plus it's, it's 6 or 8 years old. It's probably garbage, to be honest with you. I don't know that it's, maybe somebody'd get $5 for it. I don't know. But so those are the 3 items. Like I said, I'd recommend that the council, ordain as surplus. And then the way that I wrote the resolution is if you, were to pass the resolution, it would give the clerk, treasurer, authorization to dispose of the property. So what I would do is probably throw away the monitor and keyboard because I don't think it's worth anything. And we do some posts for the cash drawer, the Bose, Craigslist style, and see if somebody in the community is interested in buying those. Somebody, and maybe we can, generate 100, 200 bucks to put it in the general fund and get rid of some stuff that's really just taking up space. So.
So we need a resolution for that?
Yep, so if somebody's, interested and wants to make a motion to pass the resolution, I've got, everybody has a copy of it, but I typed it up. It's a standard, resolution. We put in RTW to give the town the authority to declare things, surplus, and then, so.
I'll make a motion in favor.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second,
Is that Sturba, the second?
and at this point, we'll discuss, is there anyone who's opposed to getting rid of this stuff? It's obviously, the town's not using it, it's taking up space. Okay, that's, so all in favor of passing this resolution? Opposed? Okay, and it's on our list, old business, updated contract, for lead service line inventory.
So I can give a quick update on this. Initially, I was thinking that this needed a motion and everything. It doesn't. I think the mayor can just sign. But it is some good financial news. So, you know, we're just in the finishing stages of the lead service line inventory that was, you know, mandated as part of the updated lead and copper rule. The initial quote, we were expecting almost $100,000, like 96,000 and change, would be the cost. So we put in a loan request for that. You know, that amount. We got TD&H to do the work. As they went through and did the work, they came in significantly under. So it's looking like it's actually going to be 32,000 instead of 96,000. So like I said, this is just an updated contract with TD&H confirming the, you know, 32,000 amount, and then we'll reduce the loan request because there's no sense in taking out a $96,000 loan when it's only going to be 32. So we'll size the loan according to that. And like I said, I initially was thinking that this needed to be, you know, a council action, but as I looked through and did the contract, you know, the mayor has approval to, you know, exercise, you know, contracts. I think it's worthwhile for everyone to be aware, but I don't think it requires a formal vote. But some good news. One thing, you know, out of a million came in, you know, under budget. So in this environment, that's pretty good news. And overall, I think the survey went pretty well. You know, we did the last round of letters in this month's billing statement to anybody who we weren't able to identify the lines. We are getting some more surveys in. And then we're gonna have, as time permits, we're gonna have Roger and Tom do a little bit of door knocking on some of the folks that have not responded to the survey and provide some assistance. Cause you know, we're figuring, you know, we've got some folks that are probably elderly and can't get into a crawl space to look at, you know, what the material is on their pipes. We probably have some people that just are not mechanically savvy enough to have any idea. So we're thinking if Roger and Tom go, you know, door knock and ask, you know, hey, would you like, you know, some help? Can I take a look in your crawl space? You know, whatever. We can get some more checked off. The law requires now that we send a letter once a year to anybody that we haven't identified. So we've got from now until next year to try to identify about 220 additional service lines that are currently listed as unidentified. And then that just reduces our time and expense of sending out, you know, these letters, you know, each year. So overall, I think the project went really well. TD&H was great to work with. It took very little town, you know, resources to get it done. So.
Okay, thanks. Now we might as well cover the hazard mitigation plan.
Yes, and so that's the last, I think, thing on this agenda. So the hazard mitigation plan is something we've been working on for most of the year. So that is essentially the draft is complete. It's out for full public review and comment. So there's a news release that has gone out. Andre County has posted that in the newspapers and such. We've got it posted here. I'm going to post a copy at the feed port and such. But there is, you know, there's a website available for public comment, and then there's contact information for Joanne Boggs and Bev O'Day for public comment as well. So that's the the big news is just to let everybody know, hopefully it will be some public here, but that plan is, done at its final stages. It's out for, public comment. And then assuming, the public comment period runs through December 9th. And then, make final cleanups and then submit that to the Department of Ecology, I think, early January. So just wanted to make a public announcement that is up for public comment.
Any questions about that? Okay. We're down to the council reports. So as John mentioned, I've been in contact with the county trying to get that water line situation changed and save us 1.1 million. I'll be good and be pretty receptive right now, having been engineer himself, but I will. He's out of town right now. So ideally, we would like to just keep it attached to the bridge. They're not gonna do any major changes to the bridge right away, from what I understand. So it was attached not correctly. And so one of the brackets, support brackets, has pulled out. So we'll go take a look at that and see if there's a good fix for it. But meanwhile, we want to keep it simple and cheap and effective. The next one that I'm thinking about is on this sewer line. So we've put in for a almost $2.5 million loan, half of it forgivable. And that would update about a quarter of our system, which means 3/4 of our system is hanging. This is a 20-year loan, right?
Correct.
Yeah, 20-year loan. So we can't wait 20 years to fix another quarter system. So what I'd like to do is suggest that we look for a grant to fix the whole thing. Right now, at the end of this Biden administration, there's buckets of money sitting there that they have wasted quite a bit. And we might be able to get some of that. John says that good grants sometimes will include a 10% writer's fee, which if we're talking about maybe a $6 million, talking about $600,000 paid for good grant. Okay. That means that I think, we should look for a grant who's good at it. And wherever they are, it'd be worth their while. And it doesn't have to be somebody local. I guess there's a few people around there. But something like this can be done nationally. Doesn't have to be here in Ponderay County. It could be in New York. Florida.
Bunch of them in Spokane.
As long as they do a good job. The grant won't get paid unless the grant goes through. So that'll hurt to do a good job. So to me, instead of just penny this thing, I think we should push for a better fix. Because just like the PUD situation, our infrastructure is deteriorating rapidly. We've got 70-year-old pipes that were good for 40 years. And as we all know, we're having issues.
So is it something that, should we put on the agenda for the next meeting to discuss at a meeting?
We could. And meanwhile, I think we should consider putting out feelers. How to do
So
that?
we're talking about putting the grant writer on the agenda so it could be discussed.
Do we have to wait for that? I mean, you don't have to start investigating, trying to find it now, instead of waiting.
Yeah, I think we can put out, I think they called it like a request for bids. I mean, similar to like, we have construction that needs to be done, we publish, few newspapers and, journals and stuff. Say, we're looking for a contractor that can do X, Y, and Z. I think, for a fairly minimal advertisement cost, I need to do a little bit of research on where it makes sense to, advertise, like what journals or whatever to cast a wide net. But, I think, we could put out like a request for proposals and, get that request out as the town of Ione is looking for a grant writer to secure grants for, these, purposes. And the out-of-pocket costs that the town would so with that would just be the advertising, costs or probably order bills, or like I said, I need to do some research. I don't know exactly where I would post for that right now, but I think that, if you wanted to look that way, that's the mechanism that would be used to try to cast a wide net and say, so what we would need to know is, what specifically are we asking for? So we had, some clear idea of what we were asking for. We could write that up into a request for proposals and get that, published out there and hopefully get some, some bites. But we could certainly put it on the agenda. Next meeting.
But meanwhile, I think we're pursuing. Right.
Yeah, because if you don't need a motion and it doesn't have to be voted on, to me, there's no sense waiting. That's just time wasted.
Mhm.
And if we already have a consensus that we all think that that's kind of what you need to do, and you don't have to have a motion, we're not doing anything wrong. So,
But can you do things that are not on the agenda?
we did in the past, and I don't know about now, but we did in the past.
Well, this is part of my mayor report. It's part of my mayor report, and I'm just telling you what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I don't, like Paul said, I don't think we need a motion, don't do anything, we shouldn't. It's
I mean, you're
business.
trying to find a funding source.
Yeah.
So that's not like that's something that we have to vote on.
I think it may be commit on some.
Right,
That's-
right.
Yeah. Do we have consensus?
Yeah,
So then I will dig into where and how and all that to post. And then we'll talk about it in more depth at the next meeting, but yeah, I don't think we have to, wait. I can figure out where to put the, posting, out.
Okay, that was my report. Kenny, you are,
I have nothing for you to.
okay? Everything's good with Kenny? You got everything? Absolutely. Thanks.
Not 3 feet of snow yet.
Not yet.
3 inches maybe.
Okay, position, Paula.
So, what did you find out about the heat?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So the valve appears to be in need of replacement, right? So the way that this works is a thermostat controls actuator that opens and closes.
That's
a
exactly
pin
what you
jack.
said. Exactly.
And so the actuator was open for this zone that does the blue room, but the valve was not. So Tom was able to
He
go up.
said the damper was probably not working correctly.
Yeah, so he was able to go up there, with a pair of pliers and get the valve open and turned it off of automatic to just on. So it's not thermostatically controlled now. It's just on. Yeah, and so, and that's the thing with this in-floor, heating, you're 24 hours probably before you notice a change in temperature, probably 48 hours to get up to like normal temperature. So it's the downside with having this in-floor heating. So I know that you had put some feelers out about some possible grants for
McKinstry.
AC system. And since we have the ducting, if we can get it grant funded, it would make a lot of sense to me that we get heat and AC,
And that's
in there
something that.
and
they-
have, because, I don't know where the decisions were, but I asked Tom, because, this is in here, we've had problems with the heat both winters. So I asked Tom, said he's been here for 17 years. He thinks there was one winter where there was not problems with heat in this building. So, you know, I have to question the wisdom of having 100% in-floor.
Joe said that was an old type of system to begin with,
Right.
you know, so they didn't put an upgraded system in here. So, when I asked him about that tonight, he told me exactly what the problem was. He said that's what's going on. So my question is, why do we keep this door, that door gets locked, is that right, and closed? Why do we do that? Why don't we keep it open so that the heat could kind of circulate through here for now? I mean, I don't know why we lock it. That's not just a question, is what I was asking.
Yeah, for the most part, we could. You know, the stuff is in the storage. I mean, I guess, to be honest with you, I don't know. I think the truth to that is because it's just always been
It was
locked.
just always locked. To me, it makes sense until this thing gets figured out. If you can have just the general heat of the building circulating in here, at least it wouldn't be as cold as it is tonight. I mean, you're gonna close the doors in here and it's only gonna get colder outside. It's just gonna get colder in here. So if you don't have to lock it, I think I would leave the doors open.
Yeah,
Let
and
it
the
have
only,
a little
you know, I
heat.
mean, I guess. The only mild concern that I would have is, you know, the library opens this building, it's open later than the town office and it's open. We left the doors open and technically anybody could walk in.
But even
and-
if you lock it on the during.
And we could leave it open. And yeah, because when I noticed around paperwork and stuff in here set up that walker and turned right around, it's like, I need my coat because it's colder in here than it is outside. So that's, you know, when we noticed the problem, but yeah, I think we could. You know, at least open it in the morning, leave it open all day and maybe close it at night when the town office closes. Because that's my only concern is vandalism, or there's not too much in here to steal. I mean, the TV is out, I could put it in the closet. I mean, somebody I guess could come steal the pictures off the walls, but I don't think, you know, these tables are too big and heavy to steal. But that's the main thing, I guess, is like on weekends or when the town people aren't even here to pay any attention.
Does the whole building have in-floor heating or just this room?
No, the whole building, that's the only thing this building.
Radiant heat. That's,
Yeah.
so I guess my next thing about that was if something like this comes across, if you give me a call. I mean, I have an excellent resource that could have told Tom from the get-go what he needed to look at without having to try to search and figure out what it was. So, you know, if you guys could give us a call and let us know, or let me know what's going on, you know, we might be able to help too. So, and then the other thing that I have is, and I don't know if this has to be voted on or what you know, has to be put on an agenda. The logging trucks are going up smack up big time now, and they start going up about 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's a continuous run for trucks. What is it?
It's 4:30.
4:30.
My alarm goes off at 4:30.
I know it's early. Yeah, I know it's early.
Right, 4:30.
So the problem that I'm starting to see there is that they use that for a bus stop right there. And there's no issues when people park across the street from that corner. That's fine. But there's one particular car that I've said something to her twice now, that she is causing traffic congestion because she pulls in there, she just parks there. And when those logging trucks start coming down, they have a difficult time getting around her because they're trying to go around her and she doesn't move. She just sits there. So I'm wondering if we should put a no parking sign there, because as winter comes, that road's going to get more narrow. It's going to get more difficult to get around that corner. And she doesn't move. Even though I went over and asked her, I said, is there any way you could possibly park across the street? Her kid lives in the trailer park, but she drives him down. He's a teenager. She drives him down there all the time. But I've seen multiple logging trucks have to just sit there and wait until the bus comes because she won't get out of the way. And it's too congested to the corner. It's like you've got so much traffic right there now that I see it as a, you know, I feel sorry for the logging trucks. I mean, they're on a time schedule. And when there was one morning, there were 3 trucks sitting there waiting because she would not get out of the way. And I told Joe, I said, I'm surprised one of them didn't get out and go tell her, would you get out of the middle of the road? Because she won't do it. So to me, it would make sense to put a no parking sign right there, and she could park across the street. I mean, when she leaves, she flips around in the middle of the street over there anyway and heads right back up to her house.
Right in the intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I don't know what to do about that, but it's becoming an issue. And I see multiple logging trucks just sitting there, just waiting for her to get out of the way, and she doesn't move, so. I don't know what you guys think.
You think a sign would change her?
Well, I think so, because for a while she was parking she was coming over the top of our driveway, and when it was muddy, she was making deep ruts. And I'm a little hot and picky about that because of all the water that we deal with there right now anyway. So I went out there and I talked to her about it, and I said, would you mind not going over the top of my driveway and going down into the soft area there? Because I said, as you can see, I said, turn around and look at all the water here. And water was running right down her tracks. So she was good about that. She did move over a little bit. So I think if she saw a no parking sign there, I would hope that she would pay attention to that. I mean, I see that little tiny sign that got put up for the Jake break. For the most part, I think that has helped. People are seeing that. I hear the compression Jake brakes that are muffled, which aren't bad, but there's still a couple of them there that still use their Jake brake that's not muffled. But so people are starting to look at the signs there. I haven't noticed any speed limit changes.
No.
They still do that.
Yeah.
But I just keep thinking about what Brian said. This is only the beginning of the logging trucks
That they're gonna be there a long time.
that are. The other issue that I see is there is a route up there years ago, and for years the logging trucks did turn and go down Greenhouse Road. But what those logging trucks are going to do to our streets in the spring before breakup, I mean, that's a lot of traffic and a lot of weight that goes on our streets. And many of them will turn and go down Houghton. And I'm sure they're going to the Porters there to probably get something to eat, I would think. But I think that in the long run, if you have that much logging truck traffic on our streets like that, it's going to create havoc to them. They're not, those companies aren't community, or they're not profitably giving anything to the town of Ione for that, but they're certainly going to be using our streets with all the weight of those trucks. And if you're talking about the amount of logging trucks that they're talking, I mean, here a couple of weeks ago, we watched 10 semis, flatbed trucks go up smack out with heavy dozers, processors. Yeah, it was major. And they did all come through Greenhouse Road, which, I was happy to see that. But there's many of probably about half of the logging trucks will go Greenhouse, and then the other half will go down our streets, and it's like, I've just watched over the years, the deep ruts that get put in our streets from the heavy traffic. And that was when they put that truck route sign heading on Greenhouse Road, because the town got tired of having our streets, slowly, caving in because of the weight of the trucks. So in the future, I see issues coming down the road for our streets for that. And I don't know how you would, I mean, the signs there,
Well, there are signs that you could put out for load restrictions when the thaw is happening.
Well,
I wonder if that could be something.
this
to
is-
look at.
this is true, but you still have,
And they-
thousands of, I mean, these logging trucks are loaded to the max, if
If they
not
go
over.
down, if they're made to go down
Right.
Greenhouse Road instead of on city streets with load restrictions, might be
Right.
something. to
Right.
look at.
But the fact still remains that even without, when you're not in spring breakup and load restrictions, of course, they stop at that point. But you still got all that weight on your streets, when there's no load restrictions. And you've got that constant traffic, and these logging trucks are constant traffic now. It's usually about 2:00 it starts slowing down, but up until that time, there's anywhere from 5 to 6 different logging trucks that are going up there. So you're talking about a lot of loads that are coming down and going on our streets every day. And that's a lot of wear and tear on the streets.
Yeah, they shouldn't be going down out in the right either, only face to the right
Right,
towards
right,
Rich's place.
right where the trucks
But
are.
that's a through truck route.
Yeah, it says truck route, and they should be
Yeah,
running
it
that
says
way,
truck.
and, yeah, and
Yeah.
they're, only about half of them are doing that. So I think that's gonna become an issue there, but she is causing, a congestion, and that corner right there is narrow. I mean, it's that whole area up there is Jordan District, nothing is correct on that thing with any of the streets. And I mean, it's just like the truck this summer that took out the power pole. It's narrow. And when those locking trucks go around, we sit there and we watch. It's missing that power pole sometimes, some of those logs by inches. So that's why they're having to sit there and wait, because she won't get out of the way, and she comes about 7:15 and sits there till 7:30, maybe 7:50, depending on when the bus comes through, and she will not move. Will not. I mean, if I saw 3 logging trucks sitting behind me because they couldn't get around me, and they cannot get around her because they don't have the room to make the corner, I would have at least got out of the way, but she's not doing it. We've seen her do it multiple times, so.
is she parking on the road or
Yeah,
off the road?
she's parking on the road. Yeah,
So
the sheriff.
is that across from your driveway?
she's parking on the same size as the driveway.
Same size as your driveway, so actually on smack.
Yeah,
And eight, yes.
But when she moves over onto what little bit of, I mean, there really is no side median on that road because of Jordan Acres the way it is. It's soft through there, so she creates these deep ruts. And like I said, I mean, here this last week, we had water from past our driveway all the way up to the alley. It was backed up that far. I mean, if we wouldn't have built our driveway up, we would have had water. We would have been flooded this last week. It just doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there, even though we've gone out there and tried to dig a hole and try to get it to drain. And Joe does that most of the time, but he hasn't been able to do that, not this time. So, so if she does get over, then she creates our water issue even more. It's for her to park there. Nobody else is there. So why does she think that there it is? Put a sign up.
Contact their contractor and tell her to put park.
But how is the school district gonna monitor our streets?
Because they said where the pickups are. I mean, they do,
Can we tell her she can't park there though?
anybody can, if she's parking on the road. It's against, the law. You don't need a parking sign.
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, I'm not opposed to putting out there and saying something to her again. I'm not. I feel sorry for the. It's a twofold problem. When she parks over too far, then it creates a huge problem for us with all the water that's coming down there. Because what's happening, the 8th Avenue is higher coming over, and it runs down on our side of on our side of the street, so the south side of the street. And it runs in front of our driveway, which we have built up to keep it from running down our driveway. And then that water goes out to the middle of the road. And last spring, I created an area a little further up where it could kind of pool back in there to get off of the street. But so when she was doing that, it was soft, it was muddy. It wasn't this spring, it was the one before. And there was she was putting big ruts, I mean, like deep ruts where she was almost getting stuck. And that's when I went out there and I said, can you please not do that? Can you please park across? And I explained to her what the reason was, and she just looked at me. And then, so her answer was just to park in the street then. So, and I talked to Eva about it. I come down and I talked to Eva about that. And at that time, she says, well, we'll deal with it. We'll get it taken care of. Yeah.
Well, she's parking on the street.
She is parking on the street.
I feel like,
Yeah, I don't think the school, I think if you talk to the school district, because they do have requirements for when they pick up students, like who's parking there and how they're parked and things. I think there are.
Most of the kids walk over to that corner and stand there. In the past, when there were parents that would bring their kids, they were on the other side of the road. And they would sit on the north side of the road, kind of off, they were on the street too, because I mean, that area is not very wide. It's very small in there. But they didn't obstruct traffic. But she's literally obstructing anybody that comes off of there. And what I've been seeing is, and I mean, we're always up early. So what I've been seeing is logger trucks park, back it up, smack it until she gets out of the way. So,
I would talk to the sheriff maybe and see if they can sit there and monitor it in the
Just
morning.
1 or 2 days, she gets a ticket, she'll
Yeah.
stop.
well, I just, in the future, that corner is a problem. It's a problem for a lot of reasons. It's a problem for the water. It's a problem because it's narrow. It's a problem because of all the trucks that are gonna be coming down off of there. It's a problem for the weight that's gonna hit our streets. I mean, there's gonna be issues there. So think about it, Kenny, streets.
Sign. Get the law involved,
Yep.
and wouldn't hurt to call the school.
I don't mind calling the school. I'll call the school. and talk to them. I don't know what her name is. I know what she drives. I know she works up at Rapids up there.
Well, I
but-
wonder too, like, is it just purely the car blocking traffic that's an issue? Or should there be a suggestion made to the school about changing bus stop locations? Because if there's gonna be a lot of logging truck traffic, does it make sense to have the school
You're right.
bus
I never
stop?
thought about that. You're right.
Right, because I don't really care too much about her inconveniencing a few logging trucks. It's frustrating. But some kid gets run over by a logging truck, that's a big deal.
Mhm.
So, my thinking, and granted, for what it's worth, is if it's just simply her blocking traffic, it's probably a sheriff's, thing, probably doesn't even need a ticket, but the deputy says, hey, you can't park here, it probably fixes the problem. But if there's like a safety issue of logging trucks, kids, school buses, all in a congested spot, then maybe we should contact the school and say, hey, we've got some safety concerns, can we find a better location, a block down or a block?
Because
up?
when those loggers making that corner, they are completely over their,
On the right hand side.
yes.
They got,
Yeah, they gotta have the whole thing because and they're bringing loads off of there that are multiple links. Some of them are really, really long and some of them are really short. And,
but they're picking up the kids off the seventh. Across. the intersection.
they're picking them up right there on Eighth, right at that intersection.
Yeah, but across the street, right? Like if young,
No, they actually, when they're, um, the bus comes, and when they bring them back, they drop them off on the snack outside. So, and all those kids congregate kind of on that corner. Is where most of them kind of stand between there, and most of them don't stand in this, but most of them stand there in that corner. So you are right, because as it starts snowing, that corner is gonna get, absolutely narrow. You can't even hardly get through smack out there with one vehicle. It just keeps narrower and narrower. So, so it's gonna become more, so. So I'll call. I mean, I don't mind if you want me to, I'll call her.
oh, yeah, anyway, I can.
I call the sheriff, give him an idea what's going on, so he can have a guy out there one morning.
They're not gonna come at that time. for it.
We got one lives right there, he's,
If he's not on call, he will not do anything, and I guarantee you that. That's come from his mouth.
But I called the school to relocate the pickup, so it would be a good idea.
Yeah.
For numerous reasons.
Exactly.
It would solve several issues.
And the kids are all walking to that spot anyway, so what's the difference between walking there and doing it maybe a block down?
Yeah.
You know, it's, or do it at the other end down there. But I think wherever you put it,
Do you want me to give them actually a call, because I know them pretty well.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. oh, they're at your department anyway, so.
I will, I'll take care of it.
You go,
Yeah, I'll get hold of them. Thanks. I'll go up to the school actually.
okay, all right, and that's all I have. That's all I'm thinking about.
Take care. Okay. This is for you, Richard.
No, I don't really have anything. I'm gonna continue looking into some suppliers for playground equipment. To continue with, IBC, a request to add a playground out at the park. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, sir. Position 4, Sheriff.
The airport project, the runway. Not the runway, the helipad replace, the relocation is going forward. With the grant money.
So where is it gonna be put?
It is going to be farther. I'm bad at directions. It's gonna be farther away from, closer to the trees.
South and a little bit, it's further from the,
Yeah.
further from the runway. It's too close to the runway.
You know, I don't understand this because when we applied for the federal grant back in 96, 97, everything was cleared with the FAA. Everything was legal. So that's why I don't understand why they are saying now this has to be moved. And I'm not questioning you guys at all. I'm just
It's a
curious why,
federal thing.
why they did that, because I
They
mean,
made the change.
everything went through the FAA. I mean, we were.
We only have to pay 5% of it, so it's not a lot of money, about $5,000. The rest of it is the FAA and,
DOT.
the Department of Transportation is paying for it, so.
So who's gonna do your pad? Because there's specific requirements for how that pad is
Right,
done.
so there's the contractor's order and they know all of that and it's all gonna be taken care of.
My blood, sweat and tears are in that pad that's out there,
Yeah.
including helping screed that thing. So I was just always curious. It was like, why did the FAA change this? It's like, you know, we spent a lot of time putting that in and all that, the runway lights, all that stuff was donated. It was like $10,000 at that time. Seattle City Light paid for all those for us. Donate, and then several years after that, we had a young man that was very angry at the town because he didn't like the fact that his grandmother had approved us. We had at the end of the runway across the highway, there were trees there, and those trees had to come down in order for us to get that grant. So they went to that, so we took the trees down. Well, he got mad and we were storing I had a brand new lawnmower out there, that was being stored out there. He went out there, he took the lawnmower at the end of the runway, pushed it over the bank, totaled the lawnmower, and then took pennies and motor oil and put them in the runway lights and shorted out that whole system and moved it. And the prosecutor would never prosecute him because he was mentally challenged, which was not true.
So that's half the lights don't work.
But Seattle City Light
Why
was,
why the prosecutor's office doesn't work?
but so there might be some issue. I mean, you might contact Seattle City Light again because they were good about donating all the stuff for the lights, because it's expensive to put all your lights.
Yeah, they donated all the breakaways, the short ones
Well,
and
I
the tall
think
ones.
there's bigger issues at the airport, later on down. The election was one of the, and I think that's gonna be addressed in, improvements. There was one more thing I was gonna say. Oh, I'm gonna be, looking at replacing those bathrooms that are down there in a picnic shelter. Those bathrooms are bad shape.
Those bathrooms have never had anything done.
Right, and they're bad, and so I'm gonna be looking at, there is a little bit of money in the airport fund, so I'm gonna be looking at. Replacing those, and, there's been a request from pilots for, some sort of shelter, so. They could sit while they're waiting for a ride, or. And there's no place for the pilots to sit down there, and, you know, a picnic table with a little cover over.
Yeah, 5 gallon bucket.
Well, the bad thing about those runway lights is when they went out, I was on a particular call that night and we could not get the fixed wing in because the runway lights were not working. And, I ended up going with the person over to Caldwell and he died just out of Caldwell. You know, so I'm really surprised that the town didn't get into that. But, you know, they knew the circumstances and they didn't blame us, but so if your lights aren't working, those fixed wing planes. You know, so there's issues there too, EMS wise, if they're not gonna work correctly. So, just an FYI.
There's also gonna be another gate put in
Yeah.
closer to the highway, so that when you come through the gate, you don't have to cross the end of the runway.
Yeah,
That gate
Yeah.
can stay there, for access to the helicopter, but another gate closer to. There's one,
And that road in between from the gate that's being used now to the name, just gonna
Well, I never,
be taken out.
I never understood when they put that, this was after I was out of there, why when they put that fence up, that they put the gate in where they did, because that was not the original road getting in there. The original road was, there were two, there was one on, just on the, just after you got off of the highway, there was a road going in there, yeah. And then there was one that was right there in the middle, so that was a brand new entrance that they put in there, and I don't know who chose that, but at the time it was like, because you didn't have to go over, you know, you didn't have to go over, when you brought the patient in, you were able to, you know, just basically the helipad was right here, and there was the turnaround down there that you had to go across there. But according to the FAA at that time, that was more taxiing, and they didn't have an issue with that. So all the fire trucks and everything would stage off to the west or the east side of the runway, and then the helicopter, when it was coming in, and the ambulance would back up there once the bird was landed. So I was just curious about that.
That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Corey, position 5.
I got the logo contest, gonna go up to the school, which I'm gonna have, you're going to the school tomorrow?
Yep.
Can you drop this off there,
Absolutely,
save me a trip?
absolutely. Yeah, because
I added the email, I added the, who to drop it off with. And everything, so.
okay, thank you. Any more topics you guys want to discuss? This is the open public part. No? Okay, meeting's adjourned.
And if I could give you guys real quick, just on your way out. So you approved the ordinance for the tax levy increase. Typically, it's just a mayor and clerk signature, but this one is asking for everybody's signature. So if I can pass this down, if I can just get signatures on, like I said, it was all approved at the last meeting, I just didn't realize.
Did have one more thing, but I'll have to wait till next